One of the newer features that we've added in fairly recently was a repair value multiplier. And the primary place where this gets used is, well, in two places. One is those areas where the prices, like labor, are just higher. As it turns out, after studying this across the country, talking to folks in a lot of different places, Minnesota, Ohio, Kentucky, Texas, away from the coast, Colorado, and Pennsylvania, and a number of other states. And then folks in the coastal areas, coastal Texas, Florida, portions of Florida, California, like San Diego and LA. What we found is that the prices in most of the country are fixed. They're very similar. When you get to the coastal areas, the labor's higher, so all the prices need to be increased. So rather than trying to do individual pricing, that you can use the multiplier. The other situation where the multiplier comes in very handy is if you're a realtor, or you're using this in a fashion where you're trying to generate pricing that would be considered retail pricing. So we're investors, so we know how to find windows at discounts. We can find contractors that are not the plumber that's charging $90 an hour. So the pricing is set up on investor pricing. So if you need to have non-investor pricing, you need to have the retail pricing, then that's where the multiplier comes in. And to use it, so there are two places where you can set the number. So I'm going to go in and go through and pick a property. And this one happens to be in Canton. I happen to like this address because it's actually one that we own. All right, so over here in the lower right corner, you can see that I've set the default multiplier to be 10%. So if you were a realtor, say it might be 25% higher. Then as I'm entering the property, I can enter this multiplier. So do my usual process of going out and finding the property. I'm just going to go ahead and use the Zillow values. Everybody knows how bad Zillow data is, so don't use Zillow for your after repair values. But I'm going to go ahead and use it because it's for quickness. Okay. So now what I've got is when I enter the price of a window, it's not $350, it's $437. All right, well, that's great, so I've got the price of roof. Now keep in mind what this is doing is multiplying every price by 1.25, so everything is 25% higher. Now, what you might realize after you've done this is, oops, I didn't enter that value. I left it at 1, and I need to generate a version of the PDF for the customer or for the seller that is the retail pricing. So I might need to go back and do this. Well, you can do that in one of two places here. You can say modify property information, or you can go down here and say modify property information. And this is also the place where if you need to change like the square footage, which is down here, the square footage, this house has 1,242 square feet and has a multiplier, gee, that's what I entered, of 1.25. Well, I want the investor pricing, and I know that it's only a 1-bath property. That doesn't affect any of the equations because of the way we've built it, and it is a 1-car garage. But for completeness, I can enter all this information. All right, so square footage is actually correct. So I've modified the multiplier. I save it. Now, to keep things consistent within the database, what you have to do is you have to clear and reset all values. Okay, so you set it and then you set it back and it recalculates it. You could use this if you wanted to be real careful about it. If you had one thing you wanted to be a little more pricey, just on one property, that's fine. It does not affect line items. So line items are where I'm just going to add, $5,000 for a roof or a barn or whatever. It only affects the percentages. And then when you go to do the PDF for the customer, the repair estimates will show the revised numbers. Obviously, I set it back to 1, so you're seeing, a window at $350. If we had left it as 1.25, then you'd see $437. And because this is handled at a per property level, then if you're doing some that are where you need the higher values, then you can do that. If it turns out that you need to make this essentially a permanent change, you're in California and you need to have everything be at a higher level, then you go into the parameters. And as we mentioned before, mine was already set to 1.25 or 1.1. Then you can just modify the multiplier. It's the bottommost item here. And say I want to put this to 1.25. Come on. Now, the default value for all future properties will be 1.25. If I wanted to set this back to 1, and then all future properties would be 1. So those two different ways of being able to handle the multiplier allow you a lot of flexibility to be able to specify it on a per property basis or across the board, and on good investing.